Let's bring in Keith Cowing, editor of NASAWatch.com. Keith, thanks for joining us. Of course, safety has been emphasised here about why these astronauts couldn't return, but this was a test flight, wasn't it?
Well, it's a test flight, but at some point, say, you don't normally put your crew into a vehicle until you think, well, I'm going to get them back so they're not going to die. So at some point, they decided the spacecraft was safe enough to fly to the space station and come back. However, once they got up there, they realized that there was a problem with the steering jets, and after months and months of trying to figure out what was going on, they erred on the side of safety for the crew because they do have another option to bring them home that has been proven many times, the SpaceX spacecraft, as being safe.
And this is essentially an 8-day mission that's been extended to an 8-month expedition. But these are veteran astronauts. Regardless, what kind of psychological impact would this have on them?
Well, I've been doing this for a long time. I have a number of friends who are astronauts. I've been on several expeditions to remote places with them, and I know Sonny Williams, one of the 2 astronauts. And I got to tell you, if you're up there in outer space and NASA calls up and says, hey, you got to spend an extra couple of weeks in outer space, everybody's always smiling. And of course, there's a difference between a few days or a few weeks and months. And so, again, you don't get on these flights unless you're ready for the unexpected. And Sunny has lived up there several times, so it's like old home week for her. I just hope they're sending up clean clothing, underwear, and snacks on the next cargo flight.
And some good books, perhaps. But of course, this is a new industry, isn't it, where airline companies are developing space travel. But if something goes wrong and people get stuck in space like this, it raises a lot of questions about the industry's feasibility, doesn't it?
Well, you would think it would, except that the idea behind this was when we lost Columbia and we had to depend on the Russians, we didn't really think it was a good idea. So NASA said, let's find a couple of companies that can develop a spacecraft, and if one doesn't work, the other will be there. And they went and did it. SpaceX, did it. They've been flying, ever since then, almost perfectly. Boeing got more money, but they had a problem. So on one hand, one of the options isn't working out, but the whole idea was to have 2 in case one didn't work out, and that is. So it depends how you want to look at it. We still have a way to get to the space station, and it remains to be seen whether Boeing will be part of that solution or if they will just decide to stop it and go find another way.
Well, that's what I was going to ask next. I mean, we have Boeing behind the Starliner and Elon Musk's company behind SpaceX. What does this mean essentially for Boeing? And, why is NASA using these private companies?
Well, it is cheaper to do this. It should be cheaper. One of our government accounting office reports showed that the way that SpaceX developed a rocket and the capsule was billions of dollars cheaper than if the government went and did it. So you take that as one thing, but then on the other hand, you're giving these companies money, they're going to make a profit, and you're expecting to get something in return. Again, with SpaceX, they got exactly what they hoped for, and then some, but with Boeing, you didn't. So, I don't know. It's the old-fashioned aerospace giants like Boeing who built the Apollo spacecraft don't seem to be able to do it anymore. And they also built a giant moon rocket, which is years late. So we're at a sort of a hinge in history where the old way of doing things is phasing out and the new way is being phased in.
All right, Keith Cowing, really appreciate your time.
My pleasure.